Thanks for joining us tonight. I'm Catherine Andrioli. Parishioners from Our Lady of Mount Carmel Church in Worcester speaking out tonight after they say their efforts to save the church from demolition are being ignored. The 88-year-old church closed on May 1st of last year. Parishioners were told there were structural concerns requiring costly repairs. Tonight, the Mount Carmel Preservation Society voiced their frustrations. In January, their petition to turn the property into a historic district was denied. It would have placed permanent restrictions on the property. The group has now proposed turning it into a shrine and has appealed a merger of the Lady with Our Lady of Loretto Church in Worcester. Parishioners say they are hoping something can change.
The church was neglected by the owners, who's really the diocese. They had a fiduciary responsibility to assure its maintenance, and knowing that there's viable solutions to repair and sustain it. You know, we want the public to remember that Our Lady Mount Carmel is a community anchor, an iconic, irreplaceable, historically significant building that deserves to be saved. It's one of the top 7 most endangered historical resources in Massachusetts, and we're working diligently to see if we can save this church.
I mean, I can't, we're all hurting. Like I said, there are days we all cry, and then we have to laugh about it and say, God is going to help us. You got to believe, you got to have the faith. And maybe the Bishop McManus will help us out. And you know what? There's no win or lose here. We all win if they keep this church going.
A demolition delay ordinance established last May will expire next month, at which time the diocese can demolish the building at any time. And crews in Webster battled a major fire. The flames broke out this afternoon, nearly destroying a home on Abbey Road. Homeowners are expecting their first child in just a few weeks and say they are completely devastated. Rosalind Flaherty has the details.
The Webster fire chief says they got a call around 1 p.m. this afternoon at this house on Abbey Road. The homeowner tells us his wife is pregnant and due next month with their first child. Jimmy Smith and his 8-month pregnant wife rushed home Monday afternoon when they heard their home was nearly destroyed by a fire.
I was shocked and cried.
Webster Fire Chief Brian Hickey says the fire went to a 3rd alarm, and at one point firefighters were called out of the building.
We got to a point where the fire was rolling over the top of their heads on the 2nd and 3rd, the attic area. So it was a safety precaution. We took them out of the building for a few minutes, and then we went back in and took care of the hot spots.
Chief Hickey says no one was home at the time of the fire, and firefighters were able to rescue 2 small dogs from the home.
The guys did a great job. You know, the guys and the girls on our teams, they always do their best.
Neighbor Eddie Doring says he rushed home from work after his wife called him.
It's nerve-wracking when you get a call at work and someone says the neighbor's house is on fire. You have visions of, it jumping from house to house.
Doring says he could see smoke from the highway.
By the time I got here, it was already fully engulfed.
Meanwhile, the homeowner says they have lived there for 5 years and had just finished the room for their first baby, due next month.
Our dream, everything is gone now.
The fire chief says the cause of the fire is under investigation. In Webster, Rosalind Flaherty, Worcester News Tonight.
A Worcester ambulance driving on Providence Street Saturday afternoon was flagged down by a man who appeared to have a serious chest wound. Police say paramedics initially thought it was a gunshot wound due to the severity. When officers arrived, the 22-year-old man lost consciousness and was taken to the hospital for emergency surgery.
The paramedics treated him and likely saved his life. He had serious life-threatening injuries, a stab wound to the chest, and they transported him to a local hospital where he was treated. He is currently in critical condition but is expected to survive.
And back at the scene on Providence Street, police were able to follow a trail of the victim's blood to an apartment with 4 people inside. A 20-year-old female was arrested for misleading police in the investigation. So far, no arrests have been made. Today marks the 102nd anniversary of the Armenian Genocide. In 1915, more than 1 million Armenians died at the hands of the Ottoman Empire in Turkey. The Turkish government denies there was a genocide, and the U.S. does not officially recognize the term genocide for those events. Many Armenians escaped to turmoil, some coming to Worcester, where their families have been since the late 1800s. They say they want people to understand what really happened and to use their voice to make sure history does not repeat itself.
I often do think of the hardships that they all had. It wasn't easy for them.
History shows that history repeats itself. And if we don't acknowledge and we don't give the right meaning what happened, and there is injustice that needs to be taken care of. And we have to learn. We cannot repeat the same offenses, and we live in a society that we need to protect one another.
The Armenian Church of Savior in Worcester says they are the first Armenian church in America. A Millbury man was only 45 years old when his symptoms of Parkinson's disease started. After his diagnosis, he was devastated and refused treatment for 3 months. But today is a much different story. Brittany Schaefer explains.
4 years ago today, Michael Wackel Sr.'s life was changed forever when he was diagnosed with Parkinson's disease.
For something like that to hit me, it was like devastating. I know it's going to progress, and you know, there's no stopping, there's no cure for it yet.
Wackel says after what he calls a short pity party, he realized he wouldn't let this disease define him and found a creative activity to turn to.
My mother said the most powerful thing in the world. She says, you got this because you can handle it. I said, I'm tired of sitting around the house watching TV. I'm going to go up to Michael's and buy myself some watercolors and some paper. I'm going to teach myself to paint watercolors. I painted her a Valentine's Day card, and it never stopped from there. It just kept going.
I got that first Valentine's Day card, and I loved it. And I get a card for every occasion. And of course, I keep them all. I cherish them.
Wackel's right hand and leg have tremors due to the disease. Therefore, he had to learn to paint with his undominant hand.
For the most part, I pretty much turn left-handed. It's therapy to me. I look forward to doing it every day, and I do it every day.
Wackel now has hundreds of paintings and did his first art show last November and sold almost everything on display. He says this wouldn't be possible without his family.
I love this man. I'm proud of him. They're just amazing.
I think if it wasn't for family, I wouldn't be doing as well as I am right now. But again, I will go down fighting, and if I one day paint with a paintbrush in my mouth, you know, I'll continue to do that.
Brittany Schaefer, Worcester News Tonight.
A local lawmaker calling for oversight hearings following the death of Aaron Hernandez. State Senator Jamie Eldridge represents the district where the Sousa Baranowski prison is located. He wants hearings to examine suicides by both prison inmates and guards. He writes the state has the nation's 4th highest prisoner suicide rate, so he wants a review of suicide prevention programs in state correctional facilities with an eye toward drafting legislation to address the issue. And it's official, Framingham will become a city. Today, officials in Framingham recounted ballots cast in this month's election. The measure narrowly passed with a little over 100 votes of a difference, according to the town clerk's office. And with the results confirmed, the most populated town in Massachusetts will become a city.